April 8, 2024, Committee of the Whole meeting of the Bluff Village Board of Trustees. Clerk, please, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Cole?
Here.
Trustee Fisher?
Here.
Trustee Freed?
Here.
Trustee Hatch?
Here.
Trustee Rappin?
Here.
And Trustee Ryder's absent. You have a quorum?
Thank you. Next on agenda is item 3, that would be the non-agenda items and visitor for public comments. The Committee of the Whole allocates 15 minutes during this item for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the Committee of the Whole on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each person addressing the Committee of the Whole
Recording in progress.
is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. I do not see anybody in the meeting room here. Drew, do we have anybody online?
No, sir.
And I say we're moving forward to our general business item, and that would be item number 4. The Committee of the Whole will entertain requests from anyone present to modify the order of business to be conducted. And again, I do not see anybody here. And what about online?
Still no one online.
And moving forward to item 4A, that would be the consideration of the minutes from the February 26, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you so much. And moving on to our business for tonight, that would be a discussion regarding Bluff strategic planning efforts. Drew?
So, I was having conversations with President Charlot about the village's strategic plan and how the goal line, so to speak, was 2023. And we talked about this a little bit at the end of the last quarter of 2023 and said we would bring it forward early in 2024. And the idea was, the conversation that we had was that, at least from staff's perspective, and I think we just agreed with this, that the 2023 plan, when it was developed, that everybody thought that the way it was written purposely, it was going to be a durable plan and that there could be opportunities to extend this for some period of time. I think that was true when the village wrote the 2016 plan as well, but I guess there was really a goal by that board to say, let's try this and make sure, and you can see, I included the 2016 plan with the 2023 plan. You can see there was a lot of similarities and there was some word changes, but I think that was purposeful to show you that this shouldn't come as a surprise that, the Lake Bluff is a homogeneous community. A lot of the same goals are in front of us. And the idea is that when the drafters of this plan said that there could be durability, I think staff is saying, yes, we think there is. At a minimum, you could point to what happened during COVID. And Regis and I had a conversation about this, was that there was some push and pull, right? Some of COVID expedited certain things, and it also held back certain things. And so, but we agreed that it impacted the plan in some way. And I point to, I think, one of the village's, I guess, most, I see one of the more complicated issues it's been trying to tackle is the housing diversity issue. And that was really at the center of the last plan and this plan, and the village has made much more progress, certainly in the last recent months, talking about missing middle housing, but it's still not done, and I would guess that it's certainly going to last to the end of this calendar year, completing the comp plan update and having a conversation of where that leads. But that's certainly going to happen, in the foreseeable future, but not done with it yet. And that's just one big example that I think, again, is a complicated issue. It's purposely trying to involve the entire community, and the comp plan has been the great backdrop to have that conversation, but nonetheless, it's not done. And so that, to me, was what I point to as the best example of why this plan should stick around for at least 24 months to work through that issue and others. But going back through this, I started at the description of the community, went back to the mission statement, the guiding principles, the vision, all the high-level goals. All those still ring true with me. I don't, certainly open to you all to debate and have a conversation about that. And Regis and I talked about that should be something this committee should do. And then also with the plan itself, with the strategies and tactics outlined, again, most of them, with few exception, are evergreen of nature, and that, is the village ever really done trying to feature and prioritize the village's natural beauty? I doubt it, right? So that's the good news, bad news with this plan. It's not like you can check off a box and say, we're done, which I think is both good and bad. But what I've tried to do over the years is when actions for you all are presented, that we try to present it in the context of the strategic plan. And I will tell you, other boards where I've done that with got to the point where they said, we don't want to see it anymore. It's such a broken record. You keep, that's fine, we get it. You're always doing that. So I've tried to tone that back a little bit, but still, we try to connect those dots. And certainly, if you review the budget in detail, you see that in the budget, the connective tissue there. We do it with the comprehensive land use plan, with all the villages' actions are linked back to this blueprint. So.
Yeah, I will, to follow on Drew's comment. Drew is absolutely focused on the plan, and pretty much everything we do is following the plan, so I love that. Now, what I also love is that plan is aspirational, as in, when you read that manual right here, guys, which is a summary, and then you have a strategic plan of a summary until then, it's great. I mean, I think the community does a great job of, from an aspirational standpoint, to define who we want to be as a company, as a community, and I love it. Now, when I look at different items, when I go items by items, there's most items, about probably 7 out of 10, we're right on, we're executing right there. And some items are like, well, we don't really progress on them, or actually we did nothing on them, or we did not do exactly what we wanted to do. But we want to do stuff, this is well done, this is well phrased, but we don't have progress for it. So I think it would be, when you procrastinate, this is not that you don't want to do it, this is that the project is too big or not phrased well enough to actually be achievable, okay? And so it's not that we procrastinate, this is very much that is, okay, we should flesh out that one. And so I think it would be interesting for point by point on this strategic plan to be all on the same page to what it meant at the time, to have from staff, and this is a suggestion from Steve, by the way, by staff, okay, can we actually do that? Is it actually okay to do that? Was it hard to achieve? Did we excel at it? Or frankly, we looked at it, we pondered about it, and well, we couldn't execute because X. I'm not hung up on the X. And for other items, we excelled, and we know that, and this is great, and we succeeded on that plan. But for the items that we have trouble executing, and they are worth it, they are really, we mean that, we want to do that. What prevents us from executing? And I think that exercise would be great. And I'm not saying we should, Steve was kidding when you said that we have to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah.
I actually don't think we need to do that, absolutely not. But I think that plan needs to be looked systematically after, just because, and for every item, to be clear that, no, we love it, fine, but what is missing and what should be better articulated, or maybe better fleshed out, I should say. For example, I'm talking about walking on road corridor, retain existing business and identify and pursue ideal sales tax generating businesses. So when I got in that chair, Kathy told me this is probably the biggest thing you have to do. Guess what? We haven't really progressed on that. What prevents us from moving forward? Okay? So, and there are multiple items behind that. So what does it take? What are we going to do to actually facilitate or do better on that item, or to progress on this item? This is just one example. Okay, and I have about 3 more like that. But overall, I love the plan. I think this is a thing every community should have. No contest. And so I'm very much nitpicking on that.
So just for the record, not every community does strategic plan, right? That is something that, and I would say very sophisticated communities don't do it, because one, it's hard to get agreement. I mean, Lake Bluff is very homogeneous, and I think that helps us to have a shared vision that's, I would say, somewhat easily articulated. But I can tell you that's not always true in communities, and we don't even want to go through it, because even here, this was an immense amount of resources for those who participated, and it was a big dive, and it was wonderful in the sense that literally there was a community group that wrote the plan. I mean, I was kind of like the scribe, but there was 10 people sitting around a table for hours writing this over several months.
It shows, when you look at, after the message from Christine, the attachment,
Oh, yeah,
There's
the
an
process.
attachment
That
that
was for
has-
this, yeah, the same process was followed for the second one. I just didn't give all that to you again.
but it shows the amount of commitment from a committee. That was from Christine. That document, attachment 2 is also, because it really describes what we should be as, following as a guideline. And that shows a lot of commitment and a lot of work.
Can I ask a question? I really like the idea, I'm very supportive of the idea of going through with staff to get an idea of what it takes, but does that create a burden on staff? Drew, I guess my question is for you. Is that a extra work that is a burden on the staff that might get in the way of normal course of business?
When I start thinking about some of the things you point to, to me, it's like some of those things are out of, the village can only do so much, right? And then it's just left up to the market.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some of these things I was looking at, some of like the strategy 4 on the bottom of page 3 talks about volunteerism, build civic capacity to understand, participate, and lead the array of institutions, initiatives, and traditions that make Lake Bluff great. And it has actually 4 actions. The first one is host timely mini workshops to educate stakeholders on policies, rights, responsibilities, and processes. And then the second action is to encourage brainstorming sessions and constructive dialogue on community events, traditions, and challenges. Action 3, popularize volunteerism across all generations, redefine it and recast it as a privilege and honor to serve. And action 4, find ways to engage and leverage talent without overtaxing new volunteers. I would say that's more true than ever post COVID. At the same time, bringing people together to talk about that would be very difficult. And I don't know how valuable that would be, you know, and so that's the thing I think of is like, we could do that. And then it would be, okay, well, where would it go? I recognize when this was written, it was at a time when I think there was concern about the number of people stepping up to serve, like, let's say, for example, the 4th of July Parade Committee, or those types of long-established institutions. They always seem to re-energize themselves and find new leadership, and it seems like, okay, well, there's a lot of hand-wringing over nothing, or, you know, but you've reached out to a number of individuals that have declined over the, you know, the last, you know. And I don't think any of them said, you know, we should get the committee and talk about how hard it is to find people, right? Nobody said that.
Jesus. That was the biggest gift I got from Kathy, that is, and now you have to populate groups. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to a bunch of friends, and it was actually hard. So, but
It's a way to lose friends, right?
or to make new friends. But I think there's a whole gradation of involvement for this plan, okay? I think there could be a candid conversation by staff saying, you know what, we had trouble implementing that, help us. That's number one. This is the lighter aspect of the rainbow here. And then there is, no, we work we do a Saturday meeting where we go and explore every item, and the 7 of us do that work. That's the next gradation. The next gradation is we find a group of people that will help us volunteer, that will help us refine, okay? Maybe we take the same group we had who created that item, that attachment 2, whatever it was, or we redo the whole plan, and I'm not advocating for that. But I think we should start with a candid conversation that is to staff, where do you guys where do you have a hard time implementing this plan to actually be helpful? We are here to be helpful. And it should not take much time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can go back through this as staff and look at this and maybe flip that a little bit on its head and say, you know, what are the top 3 or 5 priorities where we should be spending time that we're not for whatever reason, either capacity or other, you know, issues.
That's a good suggestion. I think we are not here to put burden on staff, okay? We're here to help with a guideline, another revision of that little book that helps Drew and Tim to actually know where you guys stand. You have a mandate from the days to actually go and do your work, and you don't have to ask to think twice. That's what it should be. Where do you have an issue? So we're here to help. Now, some of these don't work anymore after COVID. Some of these are understated after COVID. I don't know. So this is where we have to know that. And maybe we have achieved goals and we need to do better than it was stated since 2010 or 2016. And that might actually follow the candid conversation with staff saying that is not helpful. So that might be a Saturday morning, the 3-hour meeting. And if after that 3-hour meeting, we think, well, there might be something to flesh out, then we should continue with, okay, now we engage a group. In no way whatsoever do I say we should engage Lynn Monte for $50,000 to do the work. I think this is completely premature, but at least look at the plan systematically and see where we can be helpful, maybe flesh out a little bit more and see where we stand. And maybe that plan is fine for the next 2 years, as Drew says, for the comprehensive land use plan. Maybe we should do that after we have a revision of a land use. But we need to have that conversation, I believe.
So, Regis, just to make sure I understand, it sounds like you're in favor of number 2, study the matter further?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm not. Okay.
What do you think, Drew?
I mean, I think we can do that. I think there is, I think we can do a quick, I won't say a quick, a shallow dive into all of this and look at it and say, this is like, would be, maybe some sort of gradient, like maybe a 1, 2, 3 priority or something, and kind of label it quickly and say, this is what we should be doing. I mean, stormwater remains, if not the highest, one of the highest priorities that we're working on and trying to find funding and try to get that trunk line done, and that's a big one, and that's in here with infrastructure, and yeah, I think we can put together something that would give you guys, I don't know if you need, I think we could probably bring it back to a committee of the whole meeting and, spend an hour before we start, maybe another retreat over this and take a look at it, and you can say, hey, we think staff's wrong, or we agree with this, and, keep plugging and.
Yep. You when you and I were going at it, discussing that,
Okay.
This is great. This is the way it should be. You made a point that is the land use and the missing middle is such an important point to our community that it will affect our community from a strategic standpoint. And so you made the point to say, no, let's wait 2 years for that thing to be finished so that we can revisit the whole strategic plan. So there might be an argument for us waiting another 2 years to then take on this work. That was your point at that time. What do you guys think about that?
I don't think I concretely fall in one category or the other, but one phrase that seemed to come to mind, and I don't necessarily know if I agree with this yet, was, don't ruin good progress with perfection. And I'm just not sure if, I feel like 2 years isn't a reasonable amount of time, but then again, I could be swayed. But right now, I think I'm leaning more towards Drew's position of just waiting 2 years.
What do you guys think, Kat, Steve, Shayna, Taryn?
I think this doesn't need to be a really big deal. I think the people who did this in 2016, when you look at the big objectives, the big 5 objectives, they're timeless. Mm-hmm. And those are all the right things, and they're going to be here for all of the plans for the next 20 or 30 years. I think it's the goals that are underneath those that may be relevant or may not be relevant and probably need updating. And I think that Drew is the continuity here. I don't think this requires staff. I think this takes a day of Drew's time to probably go through that. You really are the continuity. You're the person that can look at that and intuitively. Mm-hmm. To me, there's 2 columns, right? You have 5 big objectives. You probably have 4 goals underneath all of those. Mm-hmm. And then you have a column that says, red, green, yellow, or number system or whatever of how much success have we had? 5 being the most, 1 being.
Yeah.
And then another column that, in your opinion, which isn't, it's hard to make you the guy as opposed to us, how important is this? And what we're looking for in the COW meeting is, what are the 5 or 6 things that jump out as didn't make a lot of progress, made minimal progress, made moderate progress, but is really important, so that we can focus on that. And I also think that the world's changed a little bit since COVID. There's maybe a different demographic here. Technology's different. There may be a couple of themes that you're like, over the past 8 years, there's a couple of things that changed that maybe you can just highlight. And then we talk about those things and decide if we want to take any actions. I mean, since I've been on the board for the past 3 or 4 years, we even talked about the strategic, that document, I know you live it a ton, but I'm not sure that we live it a ton, relatively new board. So I get that not every board uses a strategic plan, and I don't think we need to redo this in any way, shape, or form. I mean, this is like a little bit of work. But I think we could probably live it a little bit in these meetings and understand what our priorities are. And I think you're the guy that can help us get there.
So what you're saying is that it would be helpful for Drew only to spend a day to say, okay, how would that be? How could it or how could it be helped by? How can we assess it for what it takes to make it to today's expectation? I'm sorry, I have trouble with that. I mean, with trouble, and so that we can actually, so we can be, this can be helpful to staff going forward. That's
Yeah,
basically.
I think Drew, if Drew wants to do it alone, if he wants to bring staff in, it's up to him, but I think a lot of it's probably in his head.
Okay. And it would be helpful to have the plan being quantified. Is it helpful or is it not helpful with a quantification system, a quick quantification system?
I think that's helpful for everybody to at least have some gauge, at least to say, well, if Drew's the connective tissue here and he's rates at this, then I agree or disagree, or that's a hot spot or not. So I think what you laid out is reasonable and very doable.
Thank you. One thing I'd like to say is, so probably more than you all, I live into that as well, where I really look at how we spend money, what are the items, and I swear everything relates to that book. It's actually very funny, looking at how we basically evolve as a community. So it's a very important guideline to our community. And God, so many times Drew turns to me and takes the little book behind me and says, "Oh, this is right here, right there." So no, it's good. It's going to be helpful for you.
I think it's helpful too, because there's a lot of people in the community that wrote that are certainly still out in the community that they know that, and they're like, hey, as long as you work in the plan. And we had people stand up in the comp plan meeting saying, wait a minute, does this mean we're throwing out the strategic plan? That just the idea is like, we put a lot of work into that, It's like, no, you didn't, it's different. So, but the idea that it still resonates with the community, and I think that shows with what you see here.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Darren, Shanna, Kat?
I always agree with Steve.
Sounds reasonable. Yeah,
I
I agree.
So I'll bring that back to you all at an upcoming committee of the whole meeting then. And then take it from there, and if you feel like you need to spend more time on it, we'll schedule more time.
So to be clear, you're going to review each of the strategies and actions for progress, green, yellow, red, and then level of importance, 1 to 5.
I'll probably assign some numeric, 0 to 5, like,
Yeah.
and then I may have like some other highlight, like this needs attention. And
Yeah.
maybe here's how we can do that with some suggestions or something.
Yeah, great.
I like that. The attention, the fact that there's difficulties attached to it and it needs attention.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody read it and saw something like they were curious about, or saw something that like maybe they wanted to maybe understand maybe what that, if not, that's fine too, so.
Okay.
Should have started at 6:30.
All right. Any more on this subject?
No.
And I would be happy to entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Recording stopped.